I was just thinking about this, especially when it comes to Trent Williams, because I'm hearing a lot of offensive line concern today. Oh, it was all offensive line. The 49ers offensive line is now suddenly not very good. The 49ers offensive line is the same group that it's always been, and it has not been a story this year because it has largely been very good. This is the same group that made Micah Parsons not put up any numbers 7 days prior. But then this one, you go up against Myles Garrett, a better group, and Trent Williams has a bum ankle, and they have a worse day. And people will go, oh, see, 49ers didn't address their offensive line in the offseason. This is on the Niners. And I'm going, this is one of those things when you're a fan of a good team, when you're lucky enough that your team is actually good. Injuries are so nerve-wracking that people seem to want or expect that their team can insulate their good record from injury. And the bottom line is, you don't get to do that. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. The Bills' defense has lost two of their best players for the season. Guess what that means? They're not going to be that good. The Bills' defense is not going to be that good anymore because they lost their guys. So you can't ask for the team to insulate. In other words, it's like, well, you should have been ready for a Trent Williams injury by doing what? Having a second left tackle? And
they do have a second left tackle.
Yeah, but not one who's going to perform like this.
Right.
Not someone who can block Myles Garrett.
Well, when you talk about insulation and you look at a roster where you're starting 22 guys and then you add in your long snapper, your punter, and your kicker, that's 25 people. So now you're looking at the other 20 to 25 players as your depth pieces. So how do you want to allocate those depth pieces? Well, you start 2 wide receivers and you need 3 more. You need 2 more running backs and you need probably 2 more linebackers and you need this and you need that. Your D-line is always going to be 9 guys. So as you go through and you look at the offensive line, well, you've got Feliciano, who's a swing guy in the interior, and then you've got Jalen Moore, who's your extra tackle. Now, is Jalen Moore going to be expected to be as good as Trent Williams? So you've got a Hall of Famer who's the starter, and your backup is a good player, a young player, but he's no Trent Williams.
No, and Trent literally said it. He goes, I had to go back out there because I'm not leaving Jalen to block Myles Garrett. He goes, that's a Hall of Fame pass rusher. I'm not leaving him out there to do it because it's probably not going to go very well.
Right.
So, you
can't insulate. I guess my point, Mark, is that you can't insulate every possession or every position across the roster. It's impossible when you have a 53 or 54-man roster.
Right. And then the other side to it is when someone on the other side, the other team plays well, that's it. They played well. Oh, gosh, the offensive line can't handle. Well, maybe they would struggle with the Browns, who they're never going to ever see again.
That's Super Bowl.
Not going to be there.
Okay.
Browns, you will see them in 4 years. That's the next time the 49ers are playing the Browns. In 4 years. So that's it. Trent Williams and Myles Garrett will probably both be gone by then. So that's it. You don't need to worry about them anymore. They're 5-1. No big deal. What happens the next time they face a good defensive line? I don't know. I was told that the Cowboys were the most elite pass rushing crew the NFL had to offer, and they torched them. So it goes to show, in my opinion, don't take what you saw Sunday and bring it to next Monday. It's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's a totally different matchup. There isn't a problem. They just got beat. This particular scenario beat them.
Right.
And this scenario had some things that were circumstantial, such as some of your best players getting hurt.
Sure, but I do think that the overarching theme for me is what you talked about at the beginning of that, which is you got beat by Cleveland, and their defense is very good. And you look at the metrics, and they're number 1 in the league against the pass. And when it came to running the ball, the majority of plays involved Cleveland Browns defenders in your backfield, or at least your line of scrimmage was going backward. And what we've seen from the Niners all year long, with Juszczyk leading the way, 21 personnel, or when you flash them up to the wingback spot or the tight end, when you want to run the ball, the line of scrimmage is going that way, not this way.
Correct.
And when it goes that way, Christian McCaffrey has a chance to get ahead of steam, pick a hole, and even if they stop up the run, he's getting 3 or 4 because the line of scrimmage is 1 yard that way. Well, in this game, the line of scrimmage was this way. So when Christian McCaffrey was getting ahead of steam, he's getting hit either in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage, which leads to second and long, third and even longer because you had so many penalties. So it was a number of things, but I do think that the Cleveland defense, they were penetrating, and it was more than just Myles Garrett on Trent Williams. The whole O-line, they got beat by Cleveland, but you're right. It doesn't mean that now they stink and now they're washed and that Minnesota's going to run through them. It's a totally different matchup this weekend.
888-957-9570. Big time. Big time. In fact, this matchup is not this weekend at all.
It's Monday.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Good call. Good point.
We're going to have to drive home fast on that one. We have to drive home fast. Get home for that game.
No, that's a stick and stay. It's going to be a stick and stay in the city. You're going to have to get a sitter.
Nah.
Bar hop our way back to the old building.
We're not doing that.
Come
on. Got to get home and watch with the boys. You're welcome to come watch there. I can get to my place quicker than we get to yours.
That's true.
Yeah.
Get them on a ferry, and we'll meet them down at the ferry building for the second half.
David in San Mateo here on with Willard and Dibs. Did anything that you saw Sunday stick with you to the point where you think there's a problem going forward? Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, man. No, I think the opposite. I don't see other defenses. Oh, I'd like to see other defenses try the same scheme. Because on a normal day with normal manpower, Brock's normal accuracy, he's going to beat man, right? Like BA or Kittle. Like Shanahan's going to love man-man coverage on those guys at some point. So I think going forward, I think they'll be fine. I think assuming normal weather, normal staffing, I think they'll be fine.
Well, I will say this. Like when people say normal weather, David, thank you. I came out with one tiny concern. That's right. Even me. I came out with one tiny concern.
Your boy can't handle a wet ball.
Well, he does have a small hand.
Oh, God.
Well, wait a minute.
No, he's not poo-pooing issues.
He was.
Thank you.
He was
I stand behind it.
He was oddly inaccurate at times when even protected. At times. He had some good throws. Obviously, he took him on the final drive and got into field goal range. The one that was dropped by Ayuk was, I thought, one of the more impressive throws I've seen him make all year. He was under pressure and went over the top and dropped it in an absolute bucket. And Brandon dropped it. So there were some good throws, but some of the bad ones were not as forced as you would think. And so when you add that in, with the ball that slipped completely out of his hands also, I do think that you have to ask the question. I don't have any questions like, can Brock play in the fourth? Can he come from behind? Is he actually good? I left town on those weeks and weeks ago, if not months ago. Last year, quite frankly. But what does happen in his career when there's a weather road January playoff game? All right. I think that's a fair question, isn't it? Based on what we saw Sunday?
Sure.
That'd be one of the only ones I have.
Right, and that's something that he's going to have to deal with, whether it's a glove or extra towels out there or something, because when it really got rainy in that second quarter, that's when he looked his shakiest. And, he actually had the ball slip out of his hand, which can't happen in a playoff game. And the one throw to Kittle where Kittle was not wide open, but he was open. There was a play there to be made, and that ball came out of his hand like a dying quail flying across Washington Square here in the city, and you can't have that either.
No.
So,
I mean, there was the McCaffrey play where the flag went up, the offsides, which, people, a free play, and it was a touchdown, and he overthrew it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no getting around that it was not a good game for Brock Purdy. So, sure, there are questions there for situations like that, but I guess that's my larger point. You're not going to see a whole lot of situations like that. But I do sometimes get uncomfortable when they go, the weather. Well, the other team played in the weather too, and sometimes you have to play in weather.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Green Bay in the playoffs. Jimmy went in there and won a football game. I know it was a Hufanga special, but he had to go on a drive to get a field goal there at the end, and he was able to do it. That's a good thing. That's something that you need to be able to do. When we look at Chicago last year, but it was a monsoon. Right, and Justin Fields played in it and beat you. So you got to be able to do that stuff. So that was, if I had to come up with a concern out of last week's game, that's the only one that I got.
You're at Philly in December. You're at Washington on New Year's Eve. These are games where you're likely going to have weather of some sort. You got something there. You're at Seattle on Thanksgiving, which could be a little bit. It was a little bit sloppy.
It was a little wonky there last year when they went on a Thursday night late in the year.
Exactly,
and he was hurt.
Right, that's when he had the rib injury.
And
right?
he played great.
Yeah,
at least early he did. Played great. Got him off to a big lead right away. Huge game for Kittle. Knocked me out of my fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Anyway,
you hate to see it.
Yeah, I did. Anyway, MGK, Union City. What's up, MGK? What are you doing?
Yeah, this is MGK1 from the YouTube chat. Long-time chatter, first-time caller.
Are you coming tomorrow?
Yes, sir. I told you I would. I'm going to be there.
That's all we need from you, MGK. I recognize the name. What do you got?
So, it sucks seeing the loss, right? And a lot of things went wrong. Nobody played really all that well, but from my perspective, it's good to see a little adversity. Get your butt kicked by a tough team, get punched in the mouth, and take that with you the rest of the season into the playoffs. You're not going to be able to be the bully all the time, but it's, once again, every once in a while, good to get punched in the mouth and see how you can react to it. So I expect they're going to come out on Monday and go back to who they are, which is the more physical team. And once again, take it with them the rest of the season into the playoffs.
We'll see you tomorrow, my friend. Thank you very much for the call. You know what's funny about the Monday game? Because I do. I think that the 49ers will come out and show out well in a weather-controlled environment.
Spread 7.
Yep. It's funny because last year we spent the whole year going, dude, the Vikings win every close game. Remember the whole, they're 13-4 with a negative point differential.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Largely because they got blown off the field by the Dallas Cowboys, I think by 40 in a game at one point. But still, it felt like the Vikings were a bit of a lucky team to have the record they had. Well, David Lombardi's putting stuff out today that has metrics, and I haven't done the deep dive to see exactly what he's talking about, but if you will, the unluckiest team in the NFL so far this year, Minnesota Vikings.
They've played 6 games, and all 6 are one-score games.
Yes.
And they're 2-4.
That's largely what happened. That's what the Vikings do. It's what they did last year, too. They just won them all.
This is what happens in sports, where the regression to the mean is what happens when you are as good as you were last year. And the same thing with turnover differential. If you're great one year, odds are you're going to be back to the middle or you're going to be in the bottom the next year. They lost by 3. They lost by 6. They lost by 4. They won by 8. They lost by 7. They won by 6. That's Minnesota. One-score central.
Well, and you look at the losses also, and you're like, okay, what was the schedule like? They have had some difficult ones in there. Some big asks. They've already played the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Right.
They lost them both. They lost them both by, as you said, 1 score. So does that sort of give you pause if you're, peacocking into Minnesota on a Monday night if you're the 49ers? It's a team that only lost to the Chiefs in that building by 7.
Yeah.
It's a team that went on the road to Philadelphia, threw up for 400 and some on yards and only lost by 6.
0-3 at home, Minnesota.
Weird.
Which is really weird, yeah.
Yeah. However, it's a team that also barely, it's 2 wins, Carolina and Chicago. So that would suggest what happens when you play a functional team.
Right.
You lose. You lose. And they will, again, on Monday night. The 49ers will win that football game.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more than 1 score, which based on what Minnesota's done, can they keep it close? And if Christian McCaffrey is limited or unable to go, then it becomes a Brock Purdy game. And he doesn't have a weather excuse, not that he's making it, but there won't be bad weather for Brock Purdy. And if Deebo Samuel is limited, and we don't know how good he'll be in terms of his shoulder, if you go in there and forget the Trent Williams part of it, because I think that he'll play through whatever ankle issue he has. But if you don't have McCaffrey and you don't have Deebo, offensively, what do you do? Is it a George Kittle game? Obviously, if you're Minnesota, you look at Brandon Ayuk and you say, all right, we're not letting him beat us. We're going to double him all over the field. Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod. Eli Mitchell as a running back, can he tote the rock?
Well,
I wonder what Kyle Shanahan does with an offense if they don't have McCaffrey or Debo.
Don't forget Trent. Like, that might even have a bigger
Oh,
factor,
it is bigger, yeah.
Right, in terms of like what the Niners do on offense. Because remember, they've already played one game without Brandon and another game without Debo, in my opinion.
Sure.
I know he was suited up, but he was a complete decoy and did not.
This game they
not
played
touch the
without
ball.
Debo.
Right, but they lost. My point
Right.
is they have already functioned as a 30-point scoring team without some of these players already. They've done one without the services of Debo. They've done one completely without Brandon Ayuk. They have not really done it without McCaffrey. They've not done it without Trent. So we'll see. But I'm with you. Like, determining whether or not the 49ers can cover a number like that, I would wait until you know who's playing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Either way, for me, looking at it, this becomes a Brock game. If you don't have Christian or Debo, or if you're missing one of them, if you're missing McCaffrey, well, now, if I'm Minnesota, I'm going to sell out on trying to take away Ayuk and stop the run and then let anybody else come out and try to beat me. It's going to have to be a Brock Purdy game.
Vikings have no Justin Jefferson, and they do not have their top pass rusher, who just went out hurt as well. So everybody's going to be dealing with it. Mike in Pleasanton here on Willard and Dibs. Hey, Mike, what are you doing?
Hey, boys, how are you?
We're good, man. What about you?
I don't know if I'm doing great. Just want to start off by saying I love the Niners. I love Purdy. But if you recall last week, I called and said Purdy has not been tested in a game where it's windy, rainy, terrible, no weapons, everybody's hurt. He's got to grind it out. And I think we saw a little bit of that.
Okay, but Mike, I guess the question would become, how are you feeling if the field goal goes in? Because usually, and I'm just going to use your words here, which is you wanted to see him grind it out. I would argue that if the field goal goes in, that's exactly what the narrative would have been this week, is like, wow, that was a tough scenario and he really struggled, but when they needed him to grind it out, he did. Wouldn't that be how you feel?
Absolutely. If you can't make a 41-yard kick, it's time to get a new kicker. You got to be automatic at 41 yards. Sorry, period. Plain and simple.
What was the length of the one that the Browns missed? They missed one too. Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate it. The Browns missed one too. Wasn't it 43? I feel like it was a 43-yarder.
Yeah, I'll come up with that.
Yeah.
Missed field goal, Browns, it was 47.
47. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little longer.
Hopkins.
Yeah, a little longer.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more of a longer leash than the rookie does.
Well, I said it yesterday. I'm not going to say that, Jake Moody is big boy. He's a professional. He makes a good salary. Yeah, you got to make that. I'm not going to do the whole, he's just a rookie. He's just a little thing. No, you got to make the kick. That said, they all miss kicks. They miss extra points.
Right.
You can't be, like he says, you have to be automatic. You're not going to be 100%.
But if I say the name Brett Maher, all you're going to think about is missed extra points.
Missed kicks.
And, missed kicks that cost you games. And you can miss kicks. You can miss extra points. But when the game is on the line and you need a kick made, that's where you earn your money. And that's where, and I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today, I'm not afraid to put my name on it. When you are John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and company, and you decide that you don't want to keep your veteran who is known for accuracy, and you want to go with a rookie because he's got a great leg and he's a third-round pick, and you really want to make that change, when you make that change, you have to live with the consequences, and it reared its ugly head on Sunday.